The Valley Transportation Authority wants to use local sales tax revenue to pay for a BART extension. But as KPIX 5 reporter Devin Fehely shows us, it's coming at the expense of other transportation projects. Devin?
Yeah, in about a decade, BART's going to come right through the heart of downtown San Jose. Now, VTA was pretty adamant today that this plan to pay for some of that construction isn't etched in stone. They weren't even really comfortable calling it a proposal, but whatever you call it, critics are calling it a betrayal.
I think the taxpayers will be upset with this idea.
San Jose City Councilman Johnny Camus says what VTA is proposing is a bait and switch, a betrayal of the spirit, if not the letter, of Measure B.
We promised taxpayers that we're going to fix their roads, we're going to improve their driving conditions. This is just going to be a broken promise in the future.
In 2016, voters approved Measure B, a half-cent sales tax projected to generate as much as $6.3 billion over 30 years. The money was earmarked for transportation projects with a 25% hard cap on BART construction.
What is the best use of this sales tax measure and the timing to do that based on project delivery? So it was the very beginning of that exercise.
Last week, VTA floated a controversial idea. What if they spent the lion's share of the tax revenue generated over the next decade, 75%, to build BART at the likely expense of other transportation projects?
If you're going to say that there's towards one thing, I think you should follow through with your promise to do that, because people are expecting one thing to change, and if that doesn't change and they're talking about changing something else before they change what they already promised, it's kind of like, who do we depend on to believe anything, you know?
By law, VTA can only spend 25% of the more than $6 billion generated by Measure B on BART, but it wants to spend most of that money in the next decade during construction. Over 30 years, the transit agency says the math still adds up.
The beginning of this plan was, if you put this amount of funding for the BART project, how do you allocate funds to the other programs, and where and when?
Devin, how much money would be left for the other programs if they did this?
Well, VTA says they're going to get some new projections for sales tax revenue. It's probably going to be down because of the pandemic, but they say that if they do this plan, and that's a big if because of all of the pushback they're getting, he would probably only leave about $50 million annually for other projects.